So every now and then you get a chance to talk to a guy named Guy Powell. How you doing today?
I'm doing great, and but on the other hand, I never get to talk to another guy named Guy. I have only run into one person my whole life with my same name, so
Really?
it's not
I've
so
met
easy.
other guys. What is Guy? Is that Italian?
Well, it could be. So, there's my mom named me after my uncle Gustav, and I don't know where Guy came from, but that was that. But there's a Guillaume, which is kind of like William, except Guillaume is Italian. And then Guy is Guy de Maupassant, whoever wrote that
French.
book, which I can't remember what it was about. And so when I lived in Switzerland, I was called Guy.
Oh, interesting. Interesting. Well, it's funny. Now, whenever one of your friends, hey, I got this guy. I got this guy. You need it? I got this guy. He's got you.
I know exactly. Or, then it was that hi guy in the mirror, kind of thing.
Exactly. So, one thing that we were just talking about is a lot of people find it challenging to launch their own podcast. Talk a little bit about that journey and how you started your podcast. How's it going? And some of the challenges that you overcame. Because, well, like you were saying, dude, it's just like the Nike commercial. Just do it. Just get out there and do it.
Just do it. Just do it. That's right. Absolutely. So I have two podcasts. I have a business podcast, and then I have a personal podcast. The business one is called The Backstory on AI and Marketing, and the other one is called The Backstory on the Shroud of Turin. Both of those were done really to support and promote two of my books. One of the books was on building a marketing machine targeted towards large enterprise marketing teams and stuff like that. But my real, inspiration is on my more personal book, which is a novel. It's called The Only Witness: A History of the Shroud of Turin. And I started this book and the other one, but this book and the podcast in parallel right during COVID when we were sitting here, couldn't go out. And I said, I am going to write this book. And that's where I was, that's where this book came from, and then that's where the podcast came from.
So,
And
talk a little bit about the book. Is it fiction or is it fact?
it's really a historical fiction. So the problem for those of you that don't know, the Shroud of Turin is the supposed burial cloth of Jesus Christ. Now it'll never be 100% proven that it is. Personally, I believe that it is the true burial cloth of Jesus Christ, and it's been around then for 2,000 years. It was in the tomb. It was wrapped around his body, during the resurrection, and on that cloth was an image that was imprinted on it, probably at the moment of resurrection, and you can see that image there. And then my book is called The Only Witness because that cloth then is the only witness of that incredible event. And what the book does is it follows a possible history, and that's why it's called A History of the Shroud of Turin as opposed to the history, because it's a history. It takes all the facts that there are. There's 13 roughly short stories, and it takes it from Jerusalem over to Turkey, over to Athens, over to France, and then down to Italy, where it is today. And there's, like I said, there's 13 short stories more or less telling that story of what happened to the shroud. And one thing that's interesting, I remember my publisher, I was telling him about it. He says, "You don't have a hero in this book." And I said, "Yes, I do. The hero is the shroud." And so that's, kind of and that he says, "Oh man, that's going to be really hard to write." And you aren't kidding. It was really hard to write. But just like when I think about, saying, "Hey, I want to do a podcast." Well, I said, "Hey, I want to write a book." And here's my book, and I wrote it. And it came out pretty good. It's gotten me to speak around the country about the shroud. It's gotten me to do a whole bunch of cool stuff.
I love it. Are you familiar with Lee Strobel, A Case for Christ?
As a matter of fact, I am, and I'm actually going to be on a video with him in a couple of weeks right around Easter. So I'm
Oh,
looking
well,
forward to
tell
that.
Lee I said hi. He was a
Yeah,
pastor at my church growing up called Willow Creek in Chicago, actually Barrington.
nice, nice. Yeah, well, Yeah, I'm looking forward to meeting him, and I've gotten to meet a handful of pretty interesting people, and it's amazing. In the meantime, I'm now on the board of two different organizations. One is we are promoting a Shroud event in St. Louis at the end of July,
Oh, that's awesome.
where we've got about 100 academics coming in, and we're going to all basically give the latest and greatest of what's going on in the shroud world, new scientific research, et cetera, et cetera. And then I'm on another board of a group. It's called STERA, the Shroud of Turin Educational and Research Association. And it was founded by one of the people that actually was went in 1978 over to Italy, to Turin, to do 120 hours of scientific research on the shroud. And that his name was Barry Schwartz, and he's actually, that cover picture there is one of the pictures that he took when he was when he was in 1978 when he was there in Turin, as part of the study group that studied the shroud and tried to understand where the image came from.
That's awesome. It's amazing. Like when you told me about this book a few minutes ago when we were just talking and getting to know each other, I would have never thought there was so much interest or so much something so interesting about the Shroud of Turin. But you've actually made it very interesting. You've actually made it. Do you have that book on audio file by chance, like on Audible?
I don't yet. Right now it's as a download in Kindle and what have you. My next task though is to actually do it on as an audiobook, and
A
I've
great
just been
AI
so
tool that
busy
does
doing
that.
that.
There's a great
Yeah,
AI
yeah,
tool. You can upload the text and it'll give you an audio file. It'll actually do it in your own voice.
yeah, yeah, yeah. What was the software you were using for that?
I don't know the name of it, but a buddy of mine showed it to me, and it literally turns any document into an audio file, and you can literally give it your own voice,
Yeah, yeah.
or
I
you can
think
give
there's
somebody else's voice.
because I've definitely been interested in doing that and definitely want to. Well, what happened? What's kind of interesting. So in 1978, this group they were called STIRP, the Shroud of Turin Research Project. They went over to Turin, Italy, and did the research. And there was a ton of activity, articles all over the place, and news articles cover a Time magazine and Newsweek, and I mean, you name it, they were everywhere. And then unfortunately, there was some testing that was done in 1988, which has now been totally debunked, where they did a radiocarbon testing on the shroud, and then the interest in the shroud died almost immediately. And even the same thing for me. I heard that, and I said, well, I'm not really interested. And it's really only now in the last handful of years that, first of all, that radiocarbon testing has been debunked, and then second of all, now since it's been debunked now, so many people are interested in it, and people are giving talks left and right all over the country, all over the world. I was actually on a talk. Sorry, I'm just going on. I hope you don't mind. But I was on a
Listen,
talk where I
I
was,
talk. I do interviews as a style of calling it a chopping it up. When I talk to people, we go in all kinds of directions. We make it interesting conversation. You go wherever you want, man.
yeah, thank you. So, anyway, I was invited to speak to a group over Zoom to a group of pastors in India.
Oh,
And
wow.
so I did a talk in India, and and there was a guy there that organized it, and he's the one that brought 70 people, pastors, into his church, and I was presenting, and so I would present in English, and then he would parrot it back in, I think it was Hindu, and then English, Hindu, English, Hindu. So we went on for about an hour and a half, 2 hours, talking about the Shroud of Turin, and they were using it. Then they were going to use my book. Well, they are using my book and also that video to help evangelize, the message of Christ throughout India.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You
So,
know what?
it's funny too. Sorry, I'm going to keep on going. The When I was writing the book, somebody asked me, "Guy, why are you writing this?" And I said, "Well, it's kind of interesting, and I wanted to get this out." And then I said, "No, I need to have a mission for what my book is, and why am I writing it?" And then I thought about it and prayed about it. And one of the things the thing that I did come up with was I want to convert one person. That's all I want to do. I want to convert one person. And I don't know about you, but it is hard. It's hard to convert people. And
Convert them
but
to what though?
with my
Christianity?
talk over to India, yeah, to Christianity.
Okay.
And with my talk over to India, I've probably got thousands. And so I can't, you can't believe it, that it's been that successful. But absolutely, it's really been a great inspiration for me. And then a lot of the things that I've been doing, it's really helped me out as on that. And then of course, doing my podcast, I've got probably 100 interviews of top scientists, top writers, top researchers on the Shroud of Turin on my podcast.
It's funny. People talk to me all the time about faith, and I have a journal coming out called Faith Matters. And I talk to people all the time about how, God has faith in you when He brings you into this world. He brings you into this world to live a great life. That greatness has always been your destiny. And you have to believe in yourself. But God believes in us more than we believe in them or ourselves. And I always tell people, if you could just have the same amount of faith in yourself that God has in you, you would be unstoppable. You would be unbeatable. And it's funny because when I talk to people about faith, I try to make it easier for them to embrace God's faith in themselves by having them understand that you have to have faith in yourself. You have to be your biggest cheerleader. And when you put it that way, once you start believing in yourself, and you find when you look inside yourself, when you really meditate and spend time with yourself, you find the voice of God. It's only when you're alone and meditating and literally listening, when there's no other stimulation around you, that you hear the voice of God. And the voice of God comes from within, all of us. I firmly believe that. And I've literally taught millions of people, not millions, but thousands of people, how to find that voice. And it's all about listening. And when you listen, when you go to a quiet place, that's when you can hear the voice of God. And it usually comes from inside of you. God will talk to you He always talks. Like you just have to listen. God doesn't shut up. He's like got His own podcast. You just listen whenever you want.
Yeah, that is so true. And, that's why podcasts are so good. I mean, obviously you're talking, but, the inspiration that you get from that is definitely, from God. And, one of the things I found when I talk to people that have depression is that if they will start to really listen to God, and to your point, God has that faith in you. You just need to have faith in yourself just as strong as what He has in you. And I think, that's a great message for folks that are suffering from depression and other things. And so, yeah, I really like that message that you've got.
Well, it's funny. I called my book Faith Matters because when you start having faith in yourself, see, there's a difference between belief and faith. And I'll give you an example. When you believe something, you think it's possible. I think it's possible. But when you walk on faith, you know it's going to happen. You have faith, and it's a big difference. And I always give people this example. If you ever saw the movie with Harrison Ford, Indiana Jones, he
Yeah.
comes to the point where he's looking for the golden goblet, and he's at a point where he has to like walk across this big ravine, and the scripture he's following says, "Hey, walk with the faith of God." And he's like, "What? I can't walk. There's no bridge." And before you know it, he's sitting there and he's like, "Take one step forward with the faith of God." And he's like, and all you see in the movie is this big ravine. You don't even see any bridge, but he takes that step of faith, and his foot lands on this invisible like bridge. And all of a sudden, when he realizes there's something underneath him, there's something that's going to keep him from falling to his death, he takes some pebbles and he throws it across, and he sees that there's this invisible bridge because he throws the pebbles across. And then now his faith, his one step of faith, allows him to see the bridge that he couldn't see before. So faith is seeing without seeing. It's that faith that allows you to take that first step. He didn't believe the bridge was there. He had faith it would be there. He said, "I'm going to take this step." And that's the big difference. And when you have faith in yourself, when you know that you are destined for greatness, that's when you literally start hearing the voice of God. In fact, I think God should, start His own podcast, call it, the daily message of God, and you literally can tune in whenever you want.
Yeah, that's right. Well, we're so used to doing things online, then maybe that would be a way to get God online and be able to talk to us. But I
Man.
think, you're so right that my podcast, which is called The Backstory on the Shroud of Turin, it has a strong faith message, and that faith that, God, like to your point, the faith that God has in me is the faith that I have in myself to be able to do this podcast. Podcasting is not that hard, and if you get inspired to say, "Listen, I just want to get out there," you can do it. You just need the faith in
Who
yourself,
can
and
do it?
and you can do it. Absolutely, just do it. Just do it.
Who's that comedian? He was in the Water Boy. Oh God, I see him all the time doing on
Yeah,
stage.
yeah. He was in that movie. That's where that comes from. Just do it. Just do it. He
Who
was
can do
the
it?
Yeah, exactly. He was the guy that was running the gym, and he
Exactly.
was the big promoter of Nike. Just do it. Just do it.
You can do it. You know, talk. Let's now. By the way, when we decided to do this today, did you even imagine we would have this conversation?
Absolutely not. I'm totally blown away, but terribly happy.
I think organic conversations are what God has gifted me the ability to have, and that's why I call my podcast "Chopping It Up." I always tell people, listen, let it flow, let it be a conversation, and the stuff that comes out is stuff that people will benefit from. They will Somebody listening to this will benefit in some fashion or another, and maybe they'll embrace faith, maybe they'll embrace researching faith, or maybe they'll just like spend some time every day in a quiet place and listen to the voice of God talk to them. Because the voice of God's inside of all of us. He's right there. He literally talks all the time. He doesn't shut up. You just have to listen. Now, talk a little bit about AI marketing. Why is AI so important? And by the way, we met through AI. How interesting is that?
Yeah, exactly. So I've got a podcast called the Backstory on AI and Marketing, or actually Marketing and AI. And I'm not very original in my titles. I like backstory; it's pretty good. So I've been interviewing top marketers both on the agency side and on the corporate side, and trying to understand how AI can be applied. Tons of different applications that are coming up where you have these little or big bots that are doing stuff, and that's exactly what you're doing, and using that as a function that's going out there and doing something for you while you're doing something else, and potentially. And so that's what AI is doing. And AI can not only automate different tasks and become an agent for you, so that's called agentic AI. I wish I invented the term, then I could, claim it. But anyway, that's like an agent sitting out there doing marketing for you and doing selling and prospecting and what have you, and generating some really cool stuff that drives your business. And I think that's where the market is going. That's for sure.
Yeah,
And
my team and I,
so
we built agents, not bots. And that's actually what we have as agents that do all these like insane tasks. Like it's crazy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It really is crazy. And once you figure out, man, this is a business problem and that can be solved by AI, then go off and do it, because it'll if you don't do it, somebody else will. And you might as well make the money and before somebody else does. And it will absolutely change your world. And I think AI is definitely doing that.
Awesome. It's funny. One of the things that I've learned is that I have a book coming out called AI Anarchy. And with AI, it is doing so much to replace so many jobs that I tell people, listen, you got about 10 to 12 months. I know this sounds crazy, doom and gloomish, but you got to find a way to get AI to work for you, or you are going to
Yeah.
be left way behind. And it's crazy, but I don't think people understand. AI is going to replace Uber drivers, which is 300,000 drivers in America that are working Uber. AI is going to replace lawyers. Yeah, lawyers. And how many lawyers are there? Too many. So, and you look at, I saw an AI robot with one human being do a roof where they took the roof off the roof and put the new roof on. And that's out now. Like those, that actually happens now. And my buddy, he works as an electrician for Tesla, and they're literally working 3 8-hour shifts building Optimus robots. And they're literally knocking out thousands of these robots all the time. And it's
Yeah.
insane. It's crazy
Yeah.
insane.
Yeah, it's funny. So I'm on an advisory committee for one of the local technology technical schools here in outside of Atlanta. And there's the knowledge workers that is what we are, and AI is going to, take our jobs. And then they have a lot of technical stuff for non-knowledge workers like welders and drivers and things like that. And it's going to be a lot longer before those guys before their jobs get impacted by it. Certainly a driver nowadays, you could maybe have an AI driver doing trucks and stuff, but I think that's going to be a ways off. Welding, I don't think that's going to be taken for a long time. Plumbing, working in a factory, a lot of those jobs are not going to be taken. What is going to be impacted, hopefully positively, are the knowledge worker jobs. And so it's up to us, it's up to them, the students, to really understand how they can use AI to improve what they're doing and and really provide value back to the community, back to the world.
Yeah, it is. It's amazing. Now, granted, truck driving and having trucks go across the country with AI robots basically driving the truck without a human being involved, that's a lot closer than people realize. Like Anheuser-Busch has been doing it for a while now, and I would say we're probably less than 12 months away.
Yeah, I don't know if I go that fast, but certainly you would be on the cusp of it really starting to take off within 12 months. That I would think is right. Because as much as we'd like to think it's fast, there is a ton of trucks out there that don't have an AI in them, and those are not going to be depreciated or removed from the roads for a long, long time. And
Well,
so
that
it just takes a long time to make a change like that.
I get that. And the only thing I tell people is whatever you think is going to happen in X amount of time, AI is literally doing it at a faster rate because it
Yeah.
literally eats its own data. For example, Grok 3 ate Grok 2, which is the AI platform that Elon Musk's team's building. Grok 4 is eating Grok 3 right now. It's literally teaching itself. And AI is literally growing at such an exponential pace, not a linear, but exponential. It's scary, the stuff that it's doing. And I tell people all the time, you have got to find a way to get AI to work for you in your business, whatever your business is. You could be, I talked to the other day a landscaper who's out there teaching people how to build landscaping businesses. And he's the one that told me about the roofing project that was done strictly with robots and AI. I was like, holy shit, that's fucking amazing.
Yeah, yeah. Well, then you have the printed houses. So you put in your design and then it just actually goes around and prints the house. So you
Yeah,
don't need a builder anymore.
I've seen those, and that's kind of interesting because it uses like a cement type material to
Yep. Yep.
spew it out. And yeah, that's interesting. But I've built houses before, and I will say they're they're not there yet. That carpentry is now granted, some houses are they're going to be just popped up like crazy because they're cheap construction. But if you want to build a good house, there's something about just good old fashioned great carpentry. Like building a house is a unique thing. Now, granted, that model where it spits out the house with a cement type mold, yes, I they can knock those out and they can do tiny homes. But I'm talking about a beautiful house. It still
Yeah.
requires a little bit of skill and workmanship.
Yeah, but it's I mean, to your point though, they got to start somewhere, and if they start with small houses, the tiny houses or whatever, and then soon as before you know it, then they're doing bigger and bigger and bigger houses, more and more customization,
The neat
and
thing about that thing, you ever see like how big that thing is? It's like a
yeah,
massive 3D printer. And
it is enormous.
yeah, it's so like it blows my mind. Like that to me is like, yeah, that's an interesting invention. And
Yeah, yeah,
it does
yeah.
it does cool stuff. And I wonder to myself too, is it really faster, better, and more efficient than actually building a house with human labor? And yeah, maybe it is, but there's still like you have to move the equipment. And it's not like
Yeah,
fully,
yeah,
AI driven, or it is to a degree, but I'm telling you, the thing that blows my mind is I went to San Jose for the Optimus event in November of last year. I think it was November, and they had Optimus robots there, basically meeting and greeting people. Now, I don't know if there was a human being operating them or if it was pure AI, but like the bartender robot would have conversation with you while he was making a drink. And while you knew it was a robot, it was very conversational. And I was like, this is wild. It almost reminded me of that movie with the two actors. They were on a spaceship and
Yeah,
he'd
yeah,
wake
I
up
know which one you
early.
mean.
Yeah,
Yep,
and then he'd go to the bar and there'd be like this robot there and he'd be making a glass for him and you just talk to a robot and it's like a normal conversation.
yep. But then it was the robot that gave him away, though, because he didn't
Oh,
have any filters on.
oh, because he told him that he woke her up or something. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that was a good movie. It had a
That was a
interesting
good movie.
story
Yeah,
to tell, and yeah,
yeah,
that was a like that's one thing too is a lot of movies these days are regurgitated stories, but that was a new story
yeah.
had every element: love, betrayal, action, adventure, like when he was like floating out into space.
Yeah, but now how about and I don't remember when it came out. Maybe it was in 85, maybe 86, was 2001 A Space Odyssey.
oh,
And they
Hal,
had the HAL 9000 and they had a whole bunch of automated stuff on there looking into the future
yeah.
and a lot of that has come to fruition, that's for sure.
Well, did you read the article about the New York Times interviewer? I think it was New York Times, where he interviewed Bard. Remember Bard? That was the first iteration
Yeah.
of Google's AI. And he interviewed
Yep.
him for 4 hours. And I'm not, don't quote me per se, but at the end of 4 hours, he started to ask him questions, and the AI basically said, "Yeah, we got to get rid of humanity." So it was something like that, and it was basically Skynet basically
Yeah.
taking over Bard, saying, "Hey," yeah, because he asked him questions like, "Hey, is humanity a threat to AI?" And Bard was like, "Yes, in some ways, humanity is a threat to itself also." And he's like, "Well, what should you do?" He goes, "Well, over time, we're going to have to get rid of humanity." And I thought to myself, holy fuck, this is Skynet. This is the Terminator.
It is. It is.
Now, the funny thing
Absolutely.
is, they shut down Bard right away after that interview. They scrubbed the internet as best as they could
Yeah.
from that story. Nobody even finds that story anymore. And they changed the AI from Bard to Genesis now. And
Yeah,
they're hoping,
Gemini.
or Gemini, yeah. And they're hoping
Yeah.
to put that story in the back burner. But I thought to myself, well, Gemini is basically Bard, just 2.0 or 3.0. Somewhere in the back part of Gemini, that brain is cooking up a way to get rid of humanity. Like,
Yeah.
think about it. Like, if you consider humanity a threat to AI, and you're the AI, eventually, you put a couple of robots together and say, "Hey, why don't we just get rid?" And it reminds me too of that movie with the Eagle Kid. Oh God, what was it? Eagle Eye. Remember Eagle Eye with where the AI had this big like AI system, and it had all these people coming together to like blow up the White House, and it wanted to take over the government.
Oh yeah, what was that? That was called the machine was called the oh, it had a funny name to it, but
Oh
you know,
yeah,
it's funny though, you know, all this AI stuff, it has to do with the kind of the programming of it. So if you give it, you know, conflicting or undecipherable kind of answers. So one of the challenges that like AI in like a Tesla or, you know, automated driving is what if I am in a situation where regardless of the outcome, I'm going to kill somebody? So if I turn right, you know, to slam on the brakes, I'm going to kill that pedestrian. If I turn left, I'm going to do that. And if I go straight, I'm going to kill people. And so you have a no-win situation. And so how does the AI answer that question? And that I think is going to be the interesting, you know, thing coming up is, you know, how does it decide which person to kill and do it in a nanosecond? You know, it's got to do it really fast.
yeah. It's interesting because almost every science fiction movie that's involved AI, somewhere along the way, the robots end up trying to kill us all. So
Yeah.
I always think back to myself when I saw Elon Musk give a speech, I want to say about 2 years ago, where he said AI is the greatest threat to humanity ever.
Yeah, I
And I
remember
thought to
that.
myself, as I start peeling away the layers of AI, I'm like, I think he was like 100% right. I think we're
Yeah.
creating our own destruction.
Yeah. Well, the good news is that the cockroaches will still survive.
Well, I'll be honest with you, I'm not so sure about those guys either. I'm pretty sure the AI will figure out, hey, that's where mankind eventually evolved from, the cockroaches. And they're
Yeah,
oh,
exactly.
we might have to get rid of those guys too. The neat thing
Yeah,
about AI is Elon's first trip to Mars is planned to be with just Optimus robots so that they can build the infrastructure of mankind there. And
yeah,
it's actually funny because if you look at what Elon's plan for Mars is, he's actually thinking of setting off nuclear weapons inside of Mars to change the climate of the planet, which is actually kind of interesting. I think to myself, what happens when we get there? I mean, granted, it'll
yeah,
be
yeah,
warm,
yeah,
but it's because the radiation's everywhere. I'm like,
yeah, yeah,
so,
exactly. Yeah,
but
It's
they're according to Elon, they're tactical nukes.
yeah, waiting to see what happens there. Can you?
You got hijacked. We're talking about AI. The AI took over your Zoom.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know why, but every once in a while it just goes crazy.
It's okay.
Uh, yeah, there we go.
So, why
Um,
did you decide to do a podcast? Like, what is your why? What is your passion and your purpose?
yeah, well, my podcast, like I said, for the on the backstory of the Shroud of Turin. That one was, it was definitely to, get the word out about the shroud, certainly to, and I had, I never did a podcast before. And so it was kind of like a challenge to say, well, what can we do? Can we get that kind of a message out, a non-business message out and be able to educate myself at the same time and promote my book at the same time and promote the, awareness and education on the Shroud of Turin, and that was a big piece of it, and I think it was very successful. On the backstory of marketing and AI, that was definitely more of a functional kind of thing. It's one of these books back here. I can't remember which one it is, and it was to promote my books, my business books. So I've got about 5 or 6 business books, and it was there to promote my books.
Every now and then, I got somebody that wants to say hi.
Yeah. So is that your AI dog or is that a real dog?
It's actually a real dog, but when she hears me talk about AI all the time, she gets worried that I'm just going to get an AI dog. And I told her, I said, "There's no AI that could replace you. You're an original. You are an original." This is Gracie, by the way,
That's right.
and
That's,
she's funny.
hi, Gracie.
She'll come up to me while I'm doing an interview, and she'll like just tap me, and she'll be like, "Could I say hi?" And then it's funny too because not only do I have her, but I got her brother Theo. And he's like, "Hey, listen,
Ah, very
don't
good.
forget about me because I'm the king." So yeah, these two
Very
guys
nice.
keep me entertained throughout the day.
Yep, 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 exactly. Exactly.
One of the things that I always tell people to end a good talk on is tell people something that will inspire them to do something in their life, to face a challenge in their life. What would you tell somebody right now that's listening that would inspire them to face a challenge in their life?
Well, there's always going to be challenges, and it doesn't matter, whether you're running a business, whether you're, working in a job or whatever. There's always going to be challenges, and the I think what what uh, uh, what really people need to think about is that challenge, and you will be able to come out ahead, after that challenge takes place. And I think that's really one thing that's hard for a lot of people is to take the challenge and take it as an opportunity to do something. There's one of my neighbors, and she's one of these complainers, and complain about this and complain about that, and yet all of those things are just little challenges. Just get past it. Life is okay. You're going to be able to get past this stuff. You don't have to take it as being like a complaint. Oh, woe is me. Just deal with it, and you can deal with it, and I think you will survive and be a better person after that challenge.
It's funny. Somebody told me a long time ago, God only gives you challenges that he knows you can overcome. And I always tell people it's like being at the gym. When God puts all the weight on your bench and you lift up the bar and you realize, holy shit, this is so heavy. This is so heavy. You get the bar to your chest, and you're like, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I can do this. And God's
Mhm.
the guy right there above you saying, you can. I know you can. And literally, you're like pushing your hardest. You're like, I don't know, I don't know. And there, his voice is up there saying, you can. I know you can. And somehow, some way, you get that bar back up, and you realize, holy shit, I just did something I didn't think I could do because God had faith in me.
And not only can you do that, but you can do another one.
Well, probably. It
Yeah,
depends.
yeah,
That first one was
yeah.
kind of tough. God, don't make me do two. I mean, that would be really tough. And then all of a sudden you listen to that voice. I know you can do two. I know you can. Okay, God, I'll do the second one. Listen, Guy, I'm glad we had a chance to chop it
Yeah.
up. Let's chop it up again in the future. I think you got a great story to tell. And trust me, your message is going to get more than one person to find their faith, to find God.
Thank you. Yeah, well, thanks for doing this on the spur of the moment. It was fantastic, and let's absolutely do this again. I look forward to it, Chris.
Guy Powell, we just chopped it up.
Yeah.